Artificial intelligence is increasingly being used to analyze language patterns, social media posts, voice recordings, and even facial expressions to estimate whether someone might be at risk of depression, anxiety, or suicidal thoughts. The appeal is obvious. AI can sift through enormous amounts of data in seconds, flag subtle patterns humans might overlook, and provide near-instant alerts that could, in theory, prevent harm. Some research suggests that certain linguistic markers, like increased use of first-person pronouns, fatalistic phrasing, abrupt shifts in tone, or long stretches of silence, correlate with mental health risk. In controlled settings, AI systems can detect patterns like these with impressive speed, and early studies show that machine learning models can sometimes match or even slightly outperform clinicians when analyzing structured text samples. This has created genuine optimism about AI's potential as an early warning system, a supplemental tool that helps identify people who might otherwise slip through the cracks. But despite these encouraging developments, the science is far from conclusive, and the risks of overconfidence are significant. One central limitation is that mental health is deeply contextual, and AI models often lack access to the nuances that determine whether a phrase is a sign of danger or simply a reflection of stress, humor, metaphor, or cultural expression. A person who jokes darkly with friends, someone writing a fictional story, or a teenager using dramatic language online for attention may all trigger false alarms. Conversely, individuals who are genuinely in crisis sometimes mask their distress intentionally, using upbeat language that an algorithm might interpret as low risk. These blind spots reveal a critical truth. Mental health risk cannot be reliably inferred from language or patterns alone. Even in clinical environments where AI systems are trained on more structured data, like therapy transcripts, hospital records, or standardized questionnaires, the models can misinterpret symptoms because they cannot formulate clarifying questions or adjust their reasoning based on tone, body language, or contradictions in the person's story. Emotional distress often expresses itself in nonlinear ways. Two people with identical phrasing may have entirely different levels of risk depending on their history, support system, trauma background, medication use, or current life circumstances. Human clinicians draw on years of experience, intuition, and interpersonal sensitivity to interpret these layers. AI systems, by contrast, rely only on statistical patterns in previous data, which means they can reproduce the biases and blind spots of the datasets they were trained on. Another danger lies in accuracy rates that look impressive on paper but falter in real-world implementation. For suicide risk assessment tools, even a small number of false negatives, cases where AI incorrectly predicts someone is safe, can have devastating consequences. On the other hand, a high rate of false positives may overwhelm healthcare systems, strain crisis hotlines, and lead to unnecessary interventions, causing people to feel monitored or mistrusted. Some commercial AI tools have been shown to flag large numbers of benign statements as high risk, while failing to detect cases where people used indirect or coded language to describe suicidal intent. This inconsistency highlights how easily AI can overestimate or underestimate danger when it lacks the broader clinical picture. Ethical concerns also complicate the use of AI in mental health detection. If an algorithm analyzes private messages, voice recordings, or social media activity without clear consent, it can violate privacy and erode trust. Even in approved settings, the presence of monitoring can make people feel watched, altering how openly they share their emotional struggles. There is also the risk of data being used for purposes unrelated to safety, such as advertising, screening, or insurance decisions, which raises serious questions about fairness and confidentiality. Because AI systems do not truly understand distress, their judgments can seem authoritative despite being based on probabilistic guesses rather than clinical reasoning. Yet, with all these warnings, it is important to recognize the positive potential when AI is used responsibly and under human supervision. AI can act as an early signal, not a final verdict. In healthcare settings, a model that flags unusual language patterns or sudden behavioral changes can alert clinicians to take a closer look at a patient who might otherwise have seemed stable. This can be especially helpful in overburdened systems where mental health professionals have limited time. AI can also support crisis hotlines by helping triage large volumes of messages quickly, allowing human responders to reach the most urgent cases faster. When integrated into clinical workflows, not replacing human judgment but enhancing it, AI can strengthen mental health safety nets. The emerging consensus in scientific research is that AI detection tools are promising supplements but unreliable standalone solutions. They can increase awareness, provide rapid screening, and help clinicians identify trends that might otherwise remain hidden. But they cannot interpret personal history, cultural context, or emotional nuance, and they cannot weigh ethical dilemmas or evaluate risk with the sensitivity required in crisis situations. Human oversight remains essential because real people can ask clarifying questions, notice subtle behavioral cues, provide empathy, and offer the relational support that no algorithm can replicate. The future of AI in mental health care will depend on maintaining this balance, embracing the technology's strengths while fully acknowledging its limits. When applied thoughtfully, AI can make mental health systems more responsive and accessible. But when used recklessly or viewed as a substitute for human expertise, it can create dangerous illusions of accuracy, leaving vulnerable individuals without the depth of care they truly need.